al-Sajjad alayhi salam. Today, Friday, is the I'm trying to talk into your kharbating. Today is the birthday anniversary of Ali al-Akbar salamullahi alayh, the elder son of Imam Hussein, the warrior of Karbala, and we all know the bravery of Ali al-Akbar salamullahi alayh. I thought it would be interesting because we didn't speak about Imam al-Sajjad last Friday, and maybe some of you did not attend our Monday night program. I thought it would be a good idea for us to cover this very important part of our Shi'i heritage, which is Imam al-Sajjad's Risalah al-Huquq, his treatise of rights, treatise on rights. And what makes Risalah al-Huquq stand out, and how we as the followers of Ahlul Bayt need to be very proud of this heritage that we have. Many of us, unfortunately, for whatever reason, are not familiar with many of the works of our A'imma alayhum as-salam. You might know the Imams' names, you might be familiar with their personality, but what contribution did they have, did they give to greater society? There are certain things, for example, that Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam had contributed that would be the best if it was introduced in society today. This Risalat al-Huquq is a foundation for how we need to treat each other. It can be something that is considered as universal, in that you don't need to be a Shi'i, you don't need to be a Muslim, you don't need to be a religious person for you to know that there are rights that you need to observe, honor, and respect. The overall attitude that we have as Muslims, and this is something that Imam al-Sajjad stresses on very much, is we need to try not to be a demander of rights, but a facilitator of rights. What does this mean? This means that if you are, for example, in a relationship, if you are married, if you are a business partner, if you are a neighbor, you have two attitudes to adopt. You have two approaches that you can have. The first attitude, the first approach is, what are my rights that I need to demand from my spouse, from my neighbor, from my business partner? The second approach, the second attitude that you can have is, what should I facilitate in rights towards this particular person? What do I need to do to observe their rights? Obviously, there's a big difference here. One is self-centered. The other is catering for the other person. Now, just imagine if we were to have that kind of approach as human beings. Me always wanting to make sure that I accommodate to your rights. Me always wanting to make sure that I don't tread over your rights. I don't transgress your huquq. I'm always making sure that you, the partner, you, the spouse, you, the neighbor, you, the friend, whatever it may be, whoever it may be, your rights are reserved, your rights are preserved, your rights are honored, your rights are respected, and I'm going to facilitate them. I'm going to make sure that you have them. What about you, the recipient? Well, that's another story. Whether you receive your huquq, whether you receive your rights or whether you don't receive your rights, that's really up to the other person, isn't it? Maybe the other person is not going to care about your rights. Maybe they don't want to facilitate to your huquq. Does that mean you abandon it altogether? Does that mean you have this kind of attitude? Respect me and I will respect you. You don't respect me, I won't respect you. No, that's very un-Islamic. That's very un-Islamic. And unfortunately, a lot of people have that kind of approach in life. You know, treat me well and I'll treat you well. Respect me and I'll respect you. You don't respect me, I won't respect you. No, that's not how it works. You need to make sure that you are accommodating to someone else's haqq and huquq. How they treat you is between them and God. You're not responsible for how they treat you, how they deal with you. You're responsible for your life. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. O you who believe, worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. La yadurrukum man dalla idha ihtadaytum. It shouldn't concern you, those who go astray, if you have been guided. Are you able to guide everyone around you? Are you able to save everyone around you? No, you can't. Sometimes a person who's misguided, a person who's gone off track, might even be very, very close to you, might be your friend, your close ex-friend, might be your family member, might be your cousin, but they went down the wrong path. They picked up on things that they shouldn't. I was just telling my son that easy money is always the best, but it's always the most dangerous. Easy money. Right now, if you want to become a millionaire in the next couple of months, what do you need to become? A drug mule. Easy. You pick up something from Granville, you take it to Liverpool. You pick up something from Colombia, something white, from Escobar. Yeah. And then you bring it here. Multi-millionaire. We're going to see you walking around with a Louis Vuitton bag, new Lexus car, etc., etc., etc. Easy money. It's very, very attractive as well. It's very attractive as well, especially if you've got so many people calling you, asking. No one cares about Ali. No one would even ring Ali. Never. All of a sudden, there's this guy, his name is Abbas. He's ringing Ali all the time. Hey, Ali, how are you? I want to invite you, come over for Mendi, do this, do that. And this Ali is feeling very important, right? And then Shi'i Jurshi, one thing drags onto another thing, onto another thing, onto another thing, and that's it. It's gone. And that's why if you're not disciplined, if you don't discipline yourself in trying to always accommodate to huquq, to the rights, you will be destroyed. But there's a special approach that Islam has. The madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam holds you independently, individually responsible. You can destroy someone's haqq. You can tread all over someone's rights, and no one else will know other than you and that person and God. But that's where your religious side kicks in, are you really going to feel accountable for your doings, for your wrongdoings, for your lack of honoring of, for example, this particular haqq? And this is why a mu'min is going to be trembling in fear of God's punishment should they do such a thing. There's a beautiful hadith. It says that a munafiq, when they sin, a hypocrite, someone whose faith is weak, when they sin, where's Mehdi? Roadblocks. A person, a munafiq, a hypocrite, when they sin, it's like a fly on their shoulder and them whooshing it off. Pushing? It's not pushing. Brushing it off. Right? Simple. Very, doesn't take any effort whatsoever. But a believer, a mu'min, when they sin, it's like a big boulder, a big mountain. A heavy mountain is on them, pushing them down. And that's why that cloud of guilt is going to eat them from their insides. And that's where they turn to tawbah, to repentance, to asking for forgiveness, to wake themselves up and realize that they're going down a dark path. Then they need to return back to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why you can see in our A'imma alayhim salam, they've always stressed on this. Make sure that you accommodate to the rights of others. Make sure that you facilitate to the rights of others. Ask someone or learn about that. Here in, for example, in Australia, you have certain nights where you are able to have, for example, loud noises in your house. Sometimes I go to some people's houses and they're very loud. And I say to them, brother, let's lower our voices a little bit and put the microphone down a little bit and whatnot. And they say, it's Friday night, it doesn't matter. It does matter, actually. It does matter if you're annoying your neighbor. You know how we have some ahadith that say that you are mal'oon, you are cursed if you are issuing your kebab, if you're cooking your food and the smell of your food goes to your neighbor and your neighbor feels something about it. Your neighbor probably can't afford it. That might not be really applicable here, right? But in other places it certainly is. In other places I've experienced it myself, where I've had neighbors, for example, who probably see laham once a month, right? And then all of a sudden you're issuing your kebab in your backyard or something like that. That's a cursed person. You're a cursed person. You're going to have the attitude of, well, it's my money, it's my sweat. Why should I be caring about what my neighbor feels or what my neighbor says? It's my right. I can be loud. No, that's not how it is. And we know the Islamic approach to all of this. It's always al-jar thumma al-dar, right? And this is why when we want to look at Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, he really manifested all of this in his personality. And there's so much that we can learn from Imam al-Sajjad. Imam al-Sajjad is, when we look at Imam al-Sajjad's personality, very passive kind. We see him in a very passive kind of way, that he was, just always busy with ibadah. And no, Imam al-Sajjad could have been the most socially active person. Over 300 families were dependent on Imam al-Sajjad. Imam al-Sajjad would buy slaves by the thousands, keep them with him for a year, and on Eid al-Fitr would free them. Question, why would Imam al-Sajjad keep them for a year? Remember when we had this discussion, Ibrahim and Ali? In America, when they said that with the slave abolishment, right? They said up to 20-something% of slaves went back to their masters in America. Why? Because they didn't know how to function in real society. They didn't know how to trade or how to do business or how to buy, how to sell, how to fill in a form, how to cook, for example, on their own, etc., etc. They were illiterate, most of them. So they said, Yani ahsanli, I'll stay with the master in the cotton fields, better than me, doing this and doing that. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam kept them, would buy the slaves, keep them, would educate them, would give them life skills, would make them literate, would teach them about money, would teach them a trade. And then on Eid al-Fitr, that beautiful occasion of Eid al-Fitr, say, go, you're free. And he did this by the thousands. Right? This is like a whole organization doing that kind of work. Life skills is always going to be the most important thing that a person has. You need to learn life skills. You need to put yourself in certain situations. How many people nowadays, what do they call them, snowflakes, are so subtle and so sensitive. Everything insults them. They think that monsters are under their beds. They can't sleep unless there's a light on. They're too scared to go and take the rubbish out in the rubbish bin if it's nighttime. Isn't that right, Ahmed? They can't walk to school. They don't know how to cross a road. They don't know how to interact with other people. This is the kind of generation that we see in today's society, unfortunately. Life skills are very, very weak. They lack self-confidence. They lack self-esteem. They're always worried about their image, their appearance. Early this week, in Al-Zahra College, I was talking about this really interesting book that I came across. I haven't read it all, but it is called Beauty Sick. And it's this female professor who wrote about how modern day society is destroying the psychological element of human beings by focusing only and only on beauty and outer appearance. And we can see this clearly in social media, in obsession with plastic surgery, in people, being so caring about their body. A lot of people you see go to the gym not because they want to be healthy, because they want to look in a particular way. If it really was being healthy, cardio is the best, running is the best, exercise is the best, right? You could be having big triceps and six-pack, and you could be Akbar Jaban. Isn't that right? What's that coughing for? Right? And how about a lot of these things? A lot of people say to me, Sheikh, I feel insecure because all of my friends and that, they dress up, they do this, they do that. And I say, look, being elegant is very important in Islam. Being presentable is very important in Islam. Making sure that you are well-groomed, well-looked, male or female, but not at the cost of being so conscious because of wanting praises from others, not at the cost of doing things that will make you feel more and more insecure. A lot of young girls these days, they say to me, if I am the only one in my class, I am the only one in my family who refuses to wear makeup, and they look at me in a very demeaning, kind of disrespectful way. They say, look at her, she's a mu'aqqada, she's never going to get married, she's ugly, she's this, she's that. I say it's exactly the opposite. Some of these women, unfortunately, who have this obsession with makeup, she can't leave her house without being a cake face, without having makeup, without this. It doesn't matter at whatever cost. She knows that it's haram to do zina in public. She knows that guys aren't interested in that stuff. She knows all of these things, but yet, read this book. It's very good book to read, Beauty Sick. And you come to realize that in today's consumerizing society, they are pushing this agenda in that you are naqisa unless you do this, unless you have this, unless you have that. You will be more complete. You will be more perfect. You will be happier if you do these kind of things. And it's exactly the opposite. It's exactly the opposite. Talking about life skills here, talking about learning these life skills, how to interact, how to say things, how to do things in these particular ways, being more responsible as well. Imam al-Sajjad has two very famous works. One of them is al-Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya, which is a book of ad'iyah and munajat on different topics in different areas, different fields. Beautiful book for a person to go through, especially in Sha'ban, for you to recite al-munajat al-Sha'baniyya. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Good thing is that it's been translated into English as well. And the second one is, of course, Risalah al-Huquq, the Treatise of Rights. Now, can you see the board from there? شنو غنم هو Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Before I speak about Risalah al-Huquq, I wanted to mention this. Of course, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right, in the 7th century, Imam al-Sajjad came up with this. And now we're in the 21st century, and this Universal Declaration of Human Rights came out in the 20th century, last century, right? So for centuries on end, Muslims had this, the followers of Ahlul Bayt had this, but of course in the wider world, especially in the Western world, they didn't have this. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was adopted by the United Nations, right? They brought this about as a result of the killings that occurred in World War II. It said between 70 to 85 million people were killed in World War II. And something needed to be done about that. So therefore they said we've got to all sit down together and agree on certain rights that needs to be observed universally. And if someone violates them, we need to take them to the, for example, Universal Global World Court and whatnot. Risalah al-Huquq is very different to this, because the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is only focused on human rights. Risalah al-Huquq is wider than that. Your rights with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your rights with your a'dha, your body parts, your limbs, your rights as far as your a'mal are concerned, and of course, human rights. Another thing is that the Universal Declaration came about as a reaction, but Risalat al-Huquq and the Huquq that have been pushed by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam for us to implement and follow is there as a foundation, as a qaida, as a principle for us to work with. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, well, these are your rights, but it doesn't explain what are the consequences. Risalat al-Huquq says that. Risalat al-Huquq says that if you, for example, transgress this right, for example, one hadith says, the Holy Prophet says, Ana khasmuhu, I'm going to be the person who complains and condemns them if they were to transgress them. And that's why, even though we could agree with a lot of things that Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, there are some things that we might not agree with. Read one of them. What was your name? What's your name? Huh? Hassan, read one of them. Can you see it? No? Zoom? How do you zoom? Go. Hassan, read. Yeah? Ban on torture. Who was doing the waterboard torturing? Anyone knows what waterboard torturing is? Yeah. Why does Guatemala prison still exist? No one says anything to the United States. Read one. Behind you. Yeah, read one. Can you read? You can't? Go read it. Go, Sadiq, read one. Very good. Read one. Very good. Read one, Hussein. Good. Read one. Read one. You can't? How about you? No, how about you? Muntadhar, read one. Good. How about you, Rida? Good. Very good. MashaAllah. Who else is there that can read? Hamza, read one. Yeah, very good, Hamza. Very good, really good. MashaAllah alaik. Amazing. This is some of, you see, unfortunately, some of us have this obsession that, the white man, America, civilized, mutatawwir, they're good, we want to be like them, we want to talk like them, we want to act like them, right? But all of these that are mentioned here, all of them are valid until probably last year. America, the best business is in America is the Sijin business. What's Sijin? Prison. The best business. And that's why they don't want to really correct. They call it correctional facility, but they don't really want to correct anyone. Interesting thing, in Iran, they call it Nidamat Gah. Nidamat Gah means the place of regret. The place of regret, because that's where you're really going to sit down and reflect and regret and reflect on what it is that you're doing. Anyone read any of these, or I wasted about half an hour just putting them? Too small? We have to have someone. All right. Criminal legal system. Read it out, Mr. Reporter. Incarceration. Very good. Read out environmental rights. Ali Shamlan knows that word, yeah? A neurotoxic. Funded by the agency. Very good. Thank you very much. And there's a lot of really, really like sad things that you read about on the news that violate the basics of Huquq al-Insan, the basics of human rights, right? Anyway, these are some of the main topics of Risalatul Huquq. And if you look at Risalatul Huquq, it's a small book. I really recommend that you download it or you buy it and you read through it. You read through it. Very small book. It won't take you more than 3 or 4 days to read, but it will take you a lifetime to learn and practice. Read them out for us, yalla. Go, Ali, read them. No. انت ليش? No, this Ali here. Black Tishtasha Ali. Hassan. Hassan, can you read? No? R-I-G. H-G. Yalla, Hussein. Yeah. Rights of wife. That was a mistake. I should have written rights of husband. All right, stop. Next, Rada. Associates, yeah. You owe and etik. Etik. These are the main themes as far as the Risalatul Huquq is concerned. And by the way, there's a difference in our religion. There's a difference between Huquq and Wadha'if. There are Huquq and there are rights and there are duties. You have rights towards your parent. You have rights towards your sibling. You have rights towards your spouse. You have rights towards your business partner. You have rights towards your student. You have rights towards your teacher. But you also have duties. For example, the teacher's duty is to teach, to educate, to honor the child, to nurture them, to also be a fatherly figure. And that's why in our religion, a teacher is equal to a father. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, من علمني حرفا صرت له عبدا, which means someone who teaches me one letter, I become their slave, I become their servant, I am forever in debt to them. Right? That's the haqq the teacher has to the student. The student also has that haqq to the parent, to the teacher. Right? For example, in the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, a student never walks ahead of a teacher. A child, a son, never walks ahead of a parent. These are all things that we learn in but these are duties as well. There are rights and there are duties also. And this is how Risalah al-Huquq starts off with, right? تحركتها. سكنة, if you were reading the Nahu, سكنة سكنتها, أو وآلة تصرفت. أحسنت. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I just chose 2 rights. There are 51 rights. I just chose 2 because these 2 are the most important. We use our eyes a lot, and our eyes have a very, very big responsibility. Your eyes need to be preserved, need to be taken care of as much as possible so you don't fall into sin by seeing something that you should not be seeing, by looking at something that you should not be looking at. You know, for example, that this particular lady who usually wears hijab is hanging clothes in the backyard. And you can, for whatever reason, from your bedroom window, see her. There's only you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are you going to do? What are the rights of your eye? Are you going to violate those rights by looking at something that you should not be looking at? That's very, very important. Very dangerous as well. You polluting your eye, poisoning your eye. That's why the hadith says that a lustful, a haram gaze is a poisoned arrow from shaitan, a poisoned sahmun min sihami iblis that you are using. Be very, very careful. And that's why Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, he says, al-i'tibar. Very good. All right, the next one, Mr. Reporter, read the next line. The right of your tongue. No, the English. Of your tongue. How many times have we spoken about tongue here in this program. There are 72 sins that the tongue can commit. It's the weakest part of your body. It has no. How many bones does a tongue have? Huh? No bones, right? Every other part of your body, right, has bones. Your ears have bones. Your nose has bones, right? Your tongue has no bone, but it's the most dangerous of limbs in your body, most dangerous of parts of your body if used the bad way. That's why on my drive here, my nephews were saying the level of vulgarity and swear words that people use at school, saying bad words, saying swear words so freely, so commonly. Doesn't matter in front of teachers, in front of elders, in front of other people, younger, older, doesn't matter. But here, of course, and sometimes some words can be so hurtful to someone, it traumatizes them, right? I wish you were never born. I hate the day I met you. Sometimes, even when someone is, for example, with someone else, or they're married, or things like that, I was tricked into marrying you, right? I don't care if you leave me. There's a million other people I can get married to. Or if you leave me, you'll be miserable and no one will like you anymore. All these other hurtful kind of statements that people might very freely say. And you think that something verbal is not going to be hurtful, right? Or you look at someone and you say, oh, Khatiya, have you ever thought of getting an operation on that nose of yours? And you keep on saying it to them, oh, Khatiya, you've got, mashallah, big nose, mashallah. And you keep on saying that to someone. It really traumatizes them. It really hurts them. Hurts their feelings. Some people don't care what they say. Boys! Some people don't care what they say. Some people, unfortunately, have no care what they say, what comes out of their mouth. That's why they say something and then they think about what they said. What do I always say to Hussein? Think before you talk. I always say that to Hussein. Think before you talk. Don't say something and then think, oh, well, that doesn't really make any sense. Give me that ball. Sharon. Think before you talk. Right? And that's why they say a tongue is a two-edged sword, a two-sided sword. Sayfun dhu haddain. Why is that? Because you can use a sword to cut up tamata and khiyar to make a nice salad. You can also use it to, thank you, right? A tongue is the same thing. A tongue can be something nice to say. You can say, wa alaikum salam hajj. Alaikum salam. You can say something nice to someone like Muhammad, Haydar, you're looking nice today. You can say something bad to someone like Ali, Four Eyes. Supposed to, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Sticks and stones, Tony says. Sticks and stones, Tonys, sticks and Tonys. What is it? Will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. What does that say, Sadiq? That one in the orange. build someone up. Isn't that right? What about this one with the snake? Rida. Good boy. Helping the poor, we all already mentioned this. So just read these two beautiful hadiths. And as I said, please, my brothers and sisters, this week, dedicate it to reading Risalah al-Huquq. Spend some time on it. Watch some maybe YouTube clips about the treatise of rights of Imam al-Sajjad. Pick up on some things, learn about some things, and hopefully it will benefit you as well. Next week, inshallah, next Friday, we will be celebrating the birthday anniversary of Imam al-Hujjah Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif. It will be his 1188th birthday. I think I got that right. And so we're going to be doing A'mal next week. The celebration will be on Saturday, but the A'mal will be Friday night. So we're going to be doing the A'mal of Laylat 15 Sha'ban together, inshallah. That's the first important announcement. Another very important announcement that we need to make as well before we end with tonight's program and our dua is congratulating the Shamlan Ashira, the Shamlan Qabila, for the success of getting his P's after how many failures? 2 failures. He was able to get his P's. Who? Hassan? Yeah? Should be twice, huh? Hassan failed twice. Yeah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Let's stand up for ziyarah.